UFC Fight Night in Nashville this Saturday night. In the main event, a catchweight fight at 140 pounds. The Sandman, Cory Sandhagen, takes on Rob Font, who steps in on short notice for, of course, Umar Nurmagomedov, who just dropped out due to unknown reasons, we're assuming injury. So 11 fights now on this card. It's kind of a smaller card because of now Jesse Butler dropping out against Sean Woodson. Now I'm recording this video on Saturday before the pay-per-view card in Salt Lake City, so if any fight gets added, it won't be on this video, but if there is a fight added and you want to know my pick, let me know in the comment section down below and I will tell you the pick. But we've got Sandhagen and Font this Saturday night from the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. And folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Tomorrow, we will have our PFL 7 playoff prediction card. In the main event, Bubba Jenkins takes on Jesus Pinedo in the 145-pound division. We've also got Gabriel Braga taking on Chris Wade in the featherweight division. And then also you got the light heavyweights going. Josh Silveira takes on Ty Flores, and Impa Kasanganay takes on Martin Hamlin. And I think probably the best fight on that card. So that's coming out tomorrow because that card will be on Friday, but this card's on Saturday. Let's get it going. Your first fight here from Nashville, Tennessee is a good one. You have got the Picasso of MMA, Ode Osbourne, taking on Almabaev, coming in from Kazakhstan. This is a good fight. Ode Osbourne is my guy. I'm a huge Ode Osbourne fan. He's coming off a win over Charles Johnson. If you haven't watched the channel, you know, I mean, if you haven't watched, you don't know about the Ode Osbourne effect we've got going here on the channel. I mean, I'm a big Ode Osbourne guy. I've been a big Ode Osbourne guy since he made his UFC debut. He is the self-proclaimed Picasso of MMA. And if I call him Picasso, that's why. But yeah, you got Picasso taking on Asu Almabaev, making his UFC debut, coming in from Kazakhstan, 29 years of age. The record is 17-2, but when you really take a deeper dive into it, look at the guys he's beat. He really hasn't beaten anybody who's gotten that great of a record. I mean, you know, he's the former M1 Challenge interim flyweight champion back in 2019. He has not fought there since he won that championship. He's fought in Brave, but he's coming off one of our guys 3-1. And in flyweight MMA, again, it is tough to find, you know, real opponents. But man, there's guys out there, and Almabaev hasn't really fought those guys. His last win before his last fight, so it was 2 fights ago, fought a guy who's 21-10, beat him by split decision in Brave. And before that, he beat a guy who's 4-0. I mean, probably his best win is the guy who was 10-1 back in 2021, but now that guy's 10-4. He's been on a 3-fight losing streak after he lost to Almabaev. You know, I know Almabaev is the favorite in this one. You got him at -150, you got Ode at +130. But you look at, you know, Tapology, you got 83% for Almabaev and 17% for the Picasso of MMA. I don't love the odds there. Again, I know it could be I might be a little bit biased because I do like Picasso a lot. But when you look at Ode Osbourne, this guy is 12-5. He's been in there and done that in the UFC. After dropping his first fight to Brian Kelleher, he came back, he beat Jerome Rivera, knocked him out in the first round. Ode Osbourne's got power for a flyweight. He is a killed or be killed fighter. We're going to talk about the be killed part later. But then after the Jerome Rivera fight, okay, right here, he got knocked out in the first round by Manel Kape. That's going to happen to you. Manel Kape's likely a fight away from the World Championship if he could beat Kai Kara-France in Sydney later this year. Then he beats CJ Vergara. Then he knocks out Zaruk Adashev. Then he gets knocked out by Tyson Nam. Then he gets into a back-and-forth war with Charles Johnson, and he beats Johnson by split decision, a very close fight on that Muniz-Allen card earlier this year. Ode's good, man. Ode's really good. Ode can really mix it up on the feet. He can mix it up on the ground. You look at his last fight, the wrestling really, you know, when he needed it, especially in that second round, Ode was able to get a takedown and win that second round and win the fight 1-2. The first 2 rounds to the last round, of course, going to Charles Johnson. Ode knows when to switch it up. Osbourne's a really all-around good guy. He's good on the ground. His striking's really good as well. He's got power for being a 125-pounder. Now, again, I would be a little bit concerned with Ode. Killer be killed in there. But his opponent here in Asu Almabaev is going to look to wrestle him. Osbourne should not have any problems on the feet. In terms of the grappling, yeah, of course, I think I would be a little bit concerned for Ode. That's why a lot of people are taking the Kazakhstani fighter. It will be because of the ground game that he does have. But you know, don't forget that Osbourne's ground game isn't horrible as well. I know Brian Kelleher in his UFC debut did go out there and really beat Ode down on the ground. Got him in a guillotine choke in under 3 minutes. But I think Osbourne's game has developed a lot since then. And I do like Ode Osbourne to pick up the victory here. It's not like for sure this is a lock that Osbourne's going to win. But I definitely do think he's got a good chance to win this one, and especially at 17% and plus money, I do like Osbourne here. I think he's a really good underdog to win to start off this card. I think Osbourne's going to be won by decision. I think he's going to keep the fight standing, and I think his striking is going to be enough to pick up the victory. So give me the Picasso of MMA and Ode Osbourne to beat Asu Almabaev here to kick off this card. All right, our next fight will be still in the flyweight division. We've got Jake Hadley taking on Cody Durden here. For Durden, 15-4-1 professional record, coming off 3 straight wins over JP Bays, who's somehow getting a 4th fight in the UFC. Carlos Mota and Charles Johnson in his last one. He's going to be taking on Jake Hadley in this fight. And for Hadley, his last fight, a victory over Malcolm X Gordon, and before that, a win over Carlos Candelario as well. This is a good fight here at flyweight. It really is. I mean, look at the odds for this one. You got Hadley at -170. You got Durden at +145. You look at Cody Durden's last fight, wrestling, and some more wrestling. I mean, completely dominating Charles Johnson on the ground. Did not allow Johnson to really do anything to him in that fight. Johnson won a lot of the striking exchanges, but on the ground, man, it was all Cody Durden. In each of the 3 rounds, Cody Durden was able to get that fight down to the ground and was able to pick up the victory. He's taking on a guy here in Jake Hadley, who had a disappointing first start in his UFC career, dropping, in all fairness, just a boring fight to Alan Nascimento. Nothing notable really happened in that fight. Then after that, he got Carlos Candelario. He was able to submit Candelario in the 2nd round. Then his last fight, knocking out Malcolm Gordon in the 1st. I would still, though, be a little bit, I would be worried about the ground game at Hadley in this fight. Because, again, Cody Durden, you know what he's going to bring. He's going to bring a wrestling-heavy approach. Well, in Hadley's first fight in the UFC, he got dominated on the ground. Alana Nascimento 2 for 4 in his takedowns, but 9 minutes and 30 seconds of control time is not great for Hadley. Even go back to his fight against Mitch Raposo on the Contender Series. I know Hadley ends up winning that fight by submission in the 2nd, but the 1st round, again, you see Raposo have a little bit of success grappling-wise. I know in Hadley's last couple fights, he has been good on the ground. I mean, I know he was able to catch Candelario on a submission, even though, Candelario likely wins that 1st round. But the 2nd round, Candelario takes Hadley down because he's getting beat on the feet. Hadley's able to get him in a triangle choke. He wins the fight. And then after that, of course, Hadley goes into that Malcolm Gordon fight and just knocks out Gordon in the 1st. Now, again, Hadley is going to be the guy if he's going to win this fight. Hadley's going to have to keep the fight on the feet. He's the better striker in this fight by far. His jiu-jitsu game isn't bad as well, so I wouldn't feel, I think even if he does get taken down, I think he's going to be able to throw up from the bottom. Won't be horrible either. However, Cody Durden's one of those wrestlers, though. He's a really dominant wrestler. He's good on top. It would be tough, I think, for Hadley as a whole to pull off a submission. Especially, I know, Durden has been submitted twice, but recently he's looked really good on the ground. But again, you can't overlook the loss to Jimmy Flick. Again, that was Flick when he was still serious about MMA. I don't know where Jimmy Flick is at now. Obviously, he's not had a good performance in a while in the UFC. Then lost to Muhammad Mokaev. Again, Mokaev's going to do that to you. But in all of Durden's wins, other than the JP Bays fight, because JP Bays' chin is gone, but all of his wins, it has been dominant wrestling performances. And that's where this fight does give me trouble, because it's going to be either, all right, Hadley's able to go in there and outstrike Durden, or, Durden takes him down and Hadley's able to fight off his back and get a submission. But if he doesn't get a submission, don't we feel good about Cody Durden keeping top control and Durden, holding pace on the ground against Hadley? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough pick for me. It honestly is. I think you definitely get a situation like Durden Flick where he gets submitted. I know that was a flying triangle choke, but I could really see it either way here. I could definitely see Hadley getting a submission or Hadley winning a decision, or definitely Cody Durden winning a decision as well. I like Durden at plus money. However, I'm not going to take him. I'm going to take Jake Hadley to go in there. I think he's going to get a submission. I'm going to go 2nd round sub for Hadley. However, it would not surprise me in the slightest if Cody Durden just absolutely goes in there and dominates on the ground. It would not, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So don't be surprised if it happens. I'm still going to take Jake Hadley, though, because I'm going to take the -180 favorite. I think his ground game is going to be enough to win the fight. I think, again, if he does get taken down, I don't feel horrible about him throwing up stuff from his back. So give me Jake Hadley to win this fight by 2nd round submission. Our next fight comes in this one between Jeremiah Wells and Carlston Harris. Here, fighting at 170 pounds for Carlston Harris, coming off a win in his last fight over Jared Gooden. It was Gooden's return fight to the UFC, and Carlston Harris just kind of put it on him. A dominant wrestling performance. 1st round was a back and forth, they traded on the feet. I think Harris got the better of those exchanges. And then in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, it was all Carlston Harris with the wrestling, was able to win those last 2. That was on that Jan and Merab Dvalishvili card. Harris's only loss in the UFC. It's a loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov. That's going to happen to you. I mean, Shavkat is Shavkat, right? Shavkat went out there and knocked him out in the 1st round with a spinning back kick. Harris, before that, his first 2 fights in the UFC, submitted Christian Aguilera by anaconda choke in the first, and after that, went out there and knocked out Impa Kasanganay, who again is in the PFL playoffs this week, by first round knockout. 2 good wins for Harris. Again, the Aguilera win, I mean, Aguilera was a borderline UFC fighter. I still think Kasanganay should be in the UFC, and I think, again, I honestly think Impa Kasanganay, if he can get past Martin Hamlet, will likely win the PFL light heavyweight division this year. But Carlston Harris takes on a guy here in Jeremiah Wells, who does come into this fight as the slight favorite. For Wells, 4-0 in the UFC. Now, his last fight was tough, and it was close, because he gets knocked down twice in that fight. Okay, so basically, how this fight went. Jeremiah Wells, Matthew Semelsberger. Jeremiah Wells was by far the better wrestler. By far. But on the feet, every time that fight would stand, Semelsberger would rock him and Semelsberger would put him down. That's what would happen every single time in that fight. Now, Matthew Semelsberger will be taking on Uros Medic tonight as I'm recording this, in a couple hours, honestly. So I don't know how that fight's going to end up. But what I do know is that Jeremiah Wells was the better wrestler in that fight. On the feet, he was getting cooked, because every time they stand up, Semelsberger would hit him and Semelsberger would rock him. However, Jeremiah Wells would always recover, and Jeremiah Wells would always get that fight back down to the ground. And that's how he'd win that fight. It's a close fight. It's a really close fight. 2 judges gave every single round to Jeremiah Wells, even though he got knocked down in every single round. And then one other judge gave the 2 rounds that Semelsberger got the knockdowns in to Semelsberger, giving him the win 29-28. However, again, 2 judges' scorecards gave that fight to Wells, allowing the Philadelphia-based fighter in Wells to win the fight. Now, for Jeremiah Wells, before that, 3 straight wins to start off his UFC career, starting off with a knockout victory over Warley Alves, who was coming off a big submission victory over Munir Lazez. Then he went out there and submitted Blood Diamond. It's Blood Diamond. Is Blood Diamond getting another fight in the UFC? I feel like he is, right? He is. He's getting Charlie Radke. What are they doing? I mean, how is Blood Diamond still in the UFC? I don't know. He probably doesn't stand a chance. However, Jeremiah Wells beats Blood Diamond. He beats Court McGee by knocking him out in the first round. A huge left hook victory. And then he goes out there and beats Matthew Semelsberger by decision. Now, this fight's going to be interesting between Wells and Harris, because when we look at it, it's probably kill or be killed on both sides. I know people are picking the knockout by Jeremiah Wells, but the ground game's kind of there as well. I know Carlston Harris's ground game isn't horrible, though. 5 submissions in the past for him. Of course, the submission win over Christian Aguilera. He picked up a win on the Dana White Looking for a Fight card, where he got signed over on that UAE Warriors and Eagle FC, co-promoted event. He got a submission win over there, and that's how he got his UFC contract against a guy who was, Bill was pretty good. He was 17-1 at the time. Now he's 22-2. He's fighting in 1 championship now. I'll be honest, I don't watch as much 1 championship as I should. If Bellator folds, I probably will watch 1 championship as my 3rd promotion. It's just kind of hard to watch more than 3, honestly, because I just watch UFC, Bellator, and PFL. But if Bellator folds, I'll probably start checking out more 1 championship. However, Carlston Harris is good on the ground. Jeremiah Wells is good on the ground as well. But when we look at this fight on the feet, someone's probably getting knocked out, because both these guys have got pop on the feet. And both these guys can wrestle as well. But I think the wrestling will negate itself, and I think you will see a striking fight. And I think in that striking fight, Jeremiah Wells has got the better hands, he's got the quicker hands, and I think Jeremiah Wells has got more power as well. So I'm going to take Jeremiah Wells to go out here and pick up the victory. Again, kill or be killed. Give me Jeremiah Wells to win this fight by 2nd round knockout. I think it's going to be a great fight on the feet, but I think, again, Jeremiah Wells will outlast Carlston Harris on the feet. 2 guys who are 36 years old. I wouldn't say the tail ends of their careers, because they're both, somewhat starting in the UFC. But if you're going to make a title push, and if you're going to get in the top 15, you got to make it now, and you really can't lose any more fights. So it's a really big fight for both these guys. Jeremiah Wells is going to win this fight by 2nd round knockout. And I'm not saying at all that Jeremiah Wells is going to be making a title push by any stretch of the imagination. All I'm saying is that I think Jeremiah Wells, again, if you're going to try, or at least, try to make it to the top 15, you got to win a fight like this. So that's why I'm going to be taking Jeremiah Wells to win this fight. All right, next up, we've got Kyler Phillips taking on Hani Barcelos. For Kyler Phillips, coming off that fight where he beat Marcelo Rojo at UFC 271. That was a very long time ago. It has been a minute since we have seen Kyler Phillips. That was in February of 2022. It has been over a year. It's going to be about, a year and a half since Kyler Phillips has fought. That last win, though, was a triangle armbar submission victory over Marcelo Rojo. I remember the hype train got derailed of Kyler Phillips by Hadley and Paiva, where Paiva beat him by majority decision on that card, where Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw main evented. But he now gets a guy in Hani Barcelos, who Barcelos is coming off a loss where he got knocked out by Umar Nurmagomedov. He was booked against Miles Johns earlier this year. Fight fell through. For Phillips, he's been booked as well. He's booked after the Rojo fight against Jack Shore. Fight didn't happen because Shore got injured. Then he was booked against Rafael Asuncao. Phillips couldn't fight. And then he was booked against Said Nurmagomedov on this card. Nurmagomedov withdrew. Now we get Honey Barcelos on short notice. Obviously, Phillips will be the favorite in this fight. You got him at minus 175. You got Barcelos coming back at you at plus 150 on Tapology. I'm assuming Phillips is a big favorite. Yeah, 85% going for Kyler Phillips, 15% going for Honey Barcelos, which makes sense because Barcelos has lost 3 of his last 4. And if we're looking at this, honestly, if Barcelos loses, he might be done in the UFC because he's getting up there in age. You're looking at him, he's 36 years old. If he loses this fight, he's probably on the way out, and you probably see him on a Bellator card real soon if they stick around. If not, probably the PFL. Barcelos feels more like a Bellator guy, I'll be honest with you. It's just he's 6-3 in the promotion. He started off his UFC career on a roll. He started off 5-0. The wins over Kurt Holloway, Chris Gutierrez, Carlos Hashin. You've got Said Nurmagomedov on that win streak, Khalid Taha. Then he doesn't fight into the Timur Valiev fight. Valiev beats him in a very close fight by majority decision. Then he drops a stand-up fight against Victor Henry, beats Trevin Jones, loses to Umar Nurmagomedov. Likely, if I'm being fair though, they probably won't cut Barcelos with a loss here, considering he is saving them on this because Nurmagomedov dropped out. So if Barcelos loses, he probably will get one more chance, but still, it's a big fight for Barcelos. He wants to go out there and win. But it's a tough fight. It's a really tough fight. It is. Because Kyler Phillips is good. Kyler Phillips is really good. This is a guy who's a really good striker. He can really mix it up on the ground as well. He will give you an all-around tough fight, and he will always be in your face, and the gas tank is going to be there for Kyler Phillips. At least I think, because the Hadley and Paiva fight was interesting. But I think Phillips is a fast starter, but he is going to be there at the end of the fight. He's not going to be as much there as he was in the first round, obviously, but he's still an all-around good fighter. Barcelos, obviously, going to try to keep this fight standing. I don't really see much of the takedown because Barcelos is a really good defensive wrestler. You look at it so far in the UFC for Barcelos, 93% takedown defense rate. Again, Phillips can wrestle, but primary will be the striking. It will affect his game a little bit, though. I think if he can't mix it up, because that's what Phillips is really good at, mixing up with the striking and the grappling. But I think we will see primarily just a striking fight. In a striking fight, I will still take Kyler Phillips. I think Barcelos is tough. Barcelos will set traps. Barcelos is a good striker. But in the end, I think Kyler Phillips is the better striker. I'm going to take Kyler Phillips to win this fight by unanimous decision. He is the much younger fighter. He's coming in at 28 years old. Barcelos is 36. Again, when you just look at it, I think Phillips is all around better. I think Phillips is quicker. Again, we haven't seen the guy in a while, which is a little bit concerning. But especially when you take into account that Honey Barcelos is taking this fight on short notice. Again, Phillips has been trying to, get ready for Said Nurmagomedov. He now just gets the short replacement fight. I think he wins. Again, give me Kyler Phillips to win this fight by unanimous decision. Okay, our next fight coming in here between Billy Quarantillo at the featherweight division. Billy Quarantillo takes on Damon Jackson. Should be a really good fight. Quarantillo coming off a loss to Edson Barbosa in his last fight, and that wasn't all that long ago. That was 4 months ago, where he got knocked out in Kansas City. Now, Damon Jackson doesn't have the greatest hands. Damon Jackson is a jiu-jitsu guy, so I don't think it plays too much into account here. And now, there's a fight originally scheduled between Sean Woodson and Jesse Butler on this card. Jesse Butler just got knocked out less than 3 months ago. I was really skeptical of that fight happening. I didn't like that fight was happening because I thought Woodson was going to knock him out in the first round. And that's why I'm a little bit skeptical about Alex Pereira tonight against Jan Blachowicz, because he just got knocked out like 4 months ago. We'll see how that plays into it. We'll see how that plays. Now, I said in that fight, I don't think it's going to matter all that much because Pereira is such a better striker, and if Jan is going to win, it will be because of the grappling. So it probably won't play too much into account in that fight. And I think in the same extent, I'm not comparing Billy Quarantillo and Damon Jackson to Alex Pereira and Jan Blachowicz, but I kind of am here. I don't think it's going to play it's not going to play too much into this fight because if Damon Jackson's going to win, it will be through the grappling. I don't anticipate Damon Jackson knocking out Billy Quarantillo. And for Billy Quarantillo, the game plan remains the same. It's going to be trying to outstrike Damon Jackson, likely trying to take Damon Jackson's head off by knocking him out, right? So I don't think it plays too much into account in this fight. Now, Jesse Butler and Sean Woodson was going to play a huge factor in that fight because I think, again, Butler is going to stay standing and Sean Woodson's likely going to get the better of him. I'm glad that fight got canceled, and I'm glad that fight, if it does get rescheduled, I still think Sean Woodson wins, but I don't think Jesse Butler takes as much damage, and I think Jesse Butler will get a fair shake out of himself. I hope that fight gets rescheduled probably, I would say, 2 months down the line, because I think that gives Jesse Butler, again, the brain needs time to heal, and I think by then his brain would heal enough, at least, right? So, Quarantillo and Jackson, both guys 34 years old. For Billy Quarantillo, 5-3 in the UFC, coming off that win over Alexander Hernandez, of course, before the Barbosa loss. He lost to Shane Burgos in a tremendous fight, UFC 268. You can make the case that fight would be fight of the night on every single damn card the UFC's ever produced. I mean, for the most part. It just went right after Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. It went after the greatest fight probably of our generation. That cannot be stated enough. That fight was tremendous and is probably the best fight I've ever watched. Like, live. Yeah, I seriously think it is the best fight. There's been some great fights. I've seen some great fights. I was not watching MMA for Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg. I think that fight's tremendous as well. But, Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin's a great fight as well. Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, I think is the greatest fight of all time. It is a tremendous fight. It is that good. However, Shane Burgos, Billy Quarantillo had to follow that fight. It was a great fight. When you look at, just look at the stats for that fight. Burgos outstrikes Quarantillo 193 to 164 in that fight. It is a tremendous back and forth fight. 2 rounds to 1, Shane Burgos wins it. He drops the first, and then Burgos wins the next 2, so Quarantillo loses. But still, it's a tremendous fight that does not get talked about. That didn't even receive any post-fight bonuses because you had to give all the bonuses to Chandler and Gaethje because that fight was that good. And for the high-profile fight that was, again, well-deserved. For Quarantillo, before the Burgos fight, he beat Gabriel Benitez. He knocks him out in the 3rd round. Drops the fight to Gavin Tucker before that, and we're going to talk about Gavin Tucker later on this card when he takes on Diego Lopes. Quarantillo beats Kyle Nelson, beats Spike Carlisle, beats Jacob Kilburn, and then before that, you're looking at his contender series fight against Cam Wella-Kirk. Again, the game plan is simple for Quarantillo. Quarantillo is going to try and knock out Damon Jackson. For Damon Jackson, Jackson is going to try to get this fight on the ground because that's where Jackson excels, right? I mean, you look at his last fight. He gets knocked out by Danny Gay. Well, Damon Jackson couldn't get the fight on the ground, so eventually he got knocked out. First fight card of 2023. Now, before that, he fought Pat Sabatini. He did actually knock out Sabatini, or he did finish Sabatini. It wasn't a knockout on the feet. It was on the ground. But still, he got Sabatini on the ground, got him, or took his back, started unloading with shots. Nothing Sabatini can do. Jackson picks up the win. Before that, for Damon Jackson, a really good fight against Dan Argueta, a good fight against Cam Wella-Kirk before that. The Cam Wella-Kirk fight being a submission victory, and the Charles Rosa decision as well. Dropped a fight where he got knocked out against Ilia Topuria. Gonna happen to you. Topuria's next in line for a title shot, 145. He beat Mirsad Bektic before that in his first fight, his return to the UFC. Now, that fight was interesting, the Bektic fight, because Jackson's going to be on the ground. Bektic takes him down 7 times in that one, and eventually in the 3rd round, Damon Jackson finds the submission, and Damon Jackson finds the guillotine, and Damon Jackson picks up the win and talks trash in Mirsad Bektic's face right after he wins. So that's interesting. But now, this fight is going to be, I think, easy to pick in terms of whatever you believe is going to happen, this fight's probably going to happen. If you believe that this is going to happen, that's who you should pick. Damon Jackson, you think Damon Jackson can take down Billy Quarantillo and drag Quarantillo down to the ground, he's going to win. If you don't think he's able to do that, Billy Quarantillo picks up the victory. I'm under the belief that's not going to be able to happen. I think Billy Quarantillo will be able to keep the fight standing. I think Billy Quarantillo will be able to win the fight striking-wise. So that's why I'm going with Billy Quarantillo to win the fight by 2nd round TKO. Now, again, it would not surprise me in the slightest if Damon Jackson is able to get this fight down. Damon Jackson is just able to hold him there or eventually get a submission. It would not surprise me. But I'm going to take Billy Quarantillo. I think all around, Quarantillo's takedown defense will be good, and with this, if this fight's on the feet, which again it will be if Quarantillo is able to stop takedowns, Billy Quarantillo is going to run right through Damon Jackson. I don't think he's going to be able to. I don't think he's going to get knocked out. Chin and all, Quarantillo wins. Give me 2nd round TKO victory for Billy Q. Billy Quarantillo with the victory. Now, at 155 pounds, we've got a fight that was originally scheduled in July of 2022. We have got Ludovic Klein taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. It's a great fight. And I believe I picked Bahamondes. I'm pretty sure I picked Bahamondes when that fight was originally scheduled. But this is a good one because Quarantillo Jackson was before this. But now you got Bahamondes and Ludovic Klein. Ludovic Klein is coming off that fight where he had the draw to Jai Herbert. That was 5 months ago. Now for Jai Herbert, obviously wasn't on the right end of the scorecards. We lost to Faraziem. What do they do with Jai Herbert? They probably just wait till there's another London card. They probably book him again. Anyways, for Ludovic Klein, that draw for Jai Herbert, or that draw against Jai Herbert was his last fight. Before that, he had a huge win over Mason Jones, and that was a big one because Mason Jones, the guy who was 11-1 at the time, I believe has been cut from the UFC. Yeah, he's scheduled to fight in Cage Warriors next. The guy got 4 fights in the UFC, went 1-2 with a no contest. He gets cut. He beats David Onama, and he's gone? Really? What? Like, okay. Klein beats Mason Jones, and that's a really good win for Ludovic Klein. Eventually, that's the fight that spells the end for Mason Jones in the UFC. Ludovic Klein drops Mason Jones in the second round. He outstrikes him in that second, loses the first probably, even though I think the judges gave him all 3. I don't know about giving him the first round. The third round, definitely Ludovic Klein. The Ludovic Klein out wrestles Mason Jones and just kind of beats him on the ground. And Ludovic Klein is an all-around good fighter. I mean, you will likely see more of the striking, but he can mix it up with the wrestling, as you saw in the Mike Trezano fight. I didn't lose the Trezano fight in 2021, but that was a fight that kind of surprised me because I didn't think Klein was going to go that much to the wrestling, but he did. But again, he can get it done on the feet as well as last fight. Mix it up some with the wrestling against Jai Herbert, but it was kind of more of a striking affair. But both guys did their wrestling parts, obviously. But Ignacio Bahamondes is going to be just a pure striker, obviously. If you've not watched Ignacio Bahamondes fight, this guy's a very talented striker, and he's only 25 years old. He is a huge, and I mean huge lightweight. 6'3". He's got a 76-inch reach. The guy is massive. He is a big fighter. For comparison, Ludovic Klein is 5'7" and has a 72-inch reach. Bahamondes is huge. It is going to be tough for Ludovic Klein because I think his best opportunity to win this fight is going to be on the ground. Because on the feet, Bahamondes has got so much length on Klein in this fight. He is going to be the way more rangier fighter in this fight. Bahamondes will be able to keep his distance with his kicks and with his punches, but especially with his kicks, because you've seen what Ignacio Bahamondes is able to do with his kicks. Go watch the Roosevelt Roberts fight. Now, Roosevelt Roberts, I believe, just lost on The Ultimate Fighter. I don't watch The Ultimate Fighter because it just wasn't very good the first couple episodes I watched. However, Ignacio Bahamondes spinning wheel kicks Roosevelt Roberts in the face with like 5 seconds left in the fight and wins the fight by wheel kick. He's also got a front kick knockout in the Contender Series. Ignacio Bahamondes is a really good kickboxer. Now, his first fight in the UFC, he drops it to John McDessie in a back and forth war on the feet. It is a great fight that you wouldn't particularly want Bahamondes to lose, but he does, and it's fine because since then he's won 3 fights against Roosevelt Roberts. He submits Zhu Rong or Rong Zhu, and then he beats Trey Ogden by unanimous decision in his last one in Miami on that Adesanya versus Pereira card. Now he runs into Ludovic Klein. I think it is simple on both sides here. Ignacio Bahamondes got to keep this fight on the feet to win. If he does, I think he's going to. If Ludovic Klein's best chance to win this fight is going to be on the ground, because striking-wise, Ludovic Klein's going to have to, close distance. He's going to have to work through the reach and the kicks and everything. He's going to have to close the gap against Bahamondes because Bahamondes will be throwing that jab out there. He will be throwing his kicks out there. I think it's going to be tough for Klein to close the distance. I really think it's going to be because Bahamondes' jiu-jitsu is that, or not jiu-jitsu, sorry, not jiu-jitsu. His kickboxing is that good. I don't know why I said jiu-jitsu there, but that's how good Bahamondes is. That's how good the Chilean fighter is. I just think it's going to be really tough for Ludovic Klein to win. On the ground, yeah, that's where Klein's going to have to go. But Bahamondes has been taken down once in the UFC to Rong Zhu, and we haven't seen much of the grappling game out of Bahamondes. I know he got submitted twice before the UFC, so that's where, he got submitted in 2017 and then to Preston Parsons in 2016. So we don't know entirely how good the grappling game of Bahamondes is, but as it's been tested in the UFC, he was able to go out there and get a Bravo choke submission win over Rong Zhu. You now give him Ludovic Klein. Again, we haven't seen Bahamondes really tested that much on the ground, so it will be interesting to see. However, he's only been taken down once in the UFC. Guys have tried. Ogden tried, who's a good grappler, and he wasn't able to do it. So I'm going to take Ignacio Bahamondes to win this fight. I think he's going to win by decision. The Ogden fight didn't get a finish, so I'm going to go decision victory over Ludovic Klein here in the lightweight division. And we will now be going, though, to the light heavyweight division. Tanner Boser, of course, dropping down to 205 pounds. He did in his last one against Ion Cutelaba, where he got finished in the first. Now they give him a true entry-level guy, and Alexa Camur. Camur is very entry-level, guys. This guy has not fought since 2021, where he lost to Nikolai Negumereanu. He drops the fight to Negumereanu by split decision. Now, it's a closer fight than I thought it was going to be, but Camur's won one fight in the UFC, and it was the first fight. I remember I watched Thrill and Agony, UFC 246. There's one guy in the crowd for Alexa Camur's fight against Justin Ledet. It's Stipe Miocic. Obviously, they both train at the same gym in Independence, Ohio. There's one guy in the crowd, and Stipe, you can't understand what he's saying, of course. Alexa, like, right, that's how Stipe's gonna talk. And Camur wins. He beats him by decision. Good win. Well, however, Alexa Camur has not won a fight in the UFC since, and he has not fought since 2021. It's going to be 2 years since Alexa Camur has fought when he makes the walk against Tanner Boser. He dropped a fight to Will Knight where he loses by unanimous decision. He gets beat on the ground. Nikolai Negumereanu just does enough. It's actually kind of a close fight, but that's before I think Negumereanu truly came into his own as a fighter. And I think you can make the case that Camur won that fight. I think you can make the case that Camur won rounds 1 and 3 in this one. Obviously wins the first round. Second round, you probably give it to Negumereanu with the 2 minutes and 30 seconds of control time. But that third round, that's really close. Camur outstrikes Negumereanu. Now, Nikolai does get a takedown. Nikolai does hold him down for a little bit, but I wouldn't be against an Alexa Camur scorecard here. Now, Tanner Boser is a guy who started off real well in the UFC. He's now 4-5 in the promotion. I saw Boser thought on Twitter that he was going to get cut. He didn't. He was hoping for one more fight in the UFC in Canada. Now, I don't know if the UFC is ever so fond of Boser after what he's been saying. It's true statements that he doesn't get paid enough. Fighters don't get paid enough. He said that, I believe, what did he mention? He does appreciate Venom because Venom actually pays the fighters, but like The Rock's shoes that everyone's forced to wear. By the way, cool story about The Rock in Thembo Gorimbo, at MMA Masters the other day. Great story. The Rock comes in there, surprises him because he heard about his story. That's great. But The Rock's shoes doesn't help out the fighters at all, which I feel like it should. At least that's what Tanner Boser is saying. I think they should a little bit because everyone's kind of required to wear The Rock's Under Armour shoes on fight week. At least pay him for doing that. It feels like Reebok all over again, where I believe Mitrione refused to wear, he wore Jordans and they made him take off his Jordans because he wasn't wearing Reebok, so he just had to go and do his press conference barefoot. Like, come on, just pay the fighters. I feel like it's not that hard of a thing to do. At least just a little bit of compensation for wearing the damn shoes all week. Anyways, Boser has dropped his last 2 fights. Lost to Ion Cutelaba and lost to Rodrigo Nascimento before that. He drops a fight to Nascimento by split decision. He gets kind of beat up on the ground. Boser, he's going to try to strike with you. He's not the greatest at grappling. That's where he's going to try to get fights. He's lost 4 out of his last 5, which is not ideal because he started his UFC run, 3-1? The only loss being to Cyril Gane. He had a lot of hype, Boser did, after he knocked out Felipe Lins and knocked out Rafael Pessoa. You don't know the amount of hype Tanner Boser had, at least Pandemic MMA. He had a lot of hype going into the Andrei Arlovski fight. A lot of hype. And he drops it by unanimous decision. That was the start of the run of Andrei Arlovski beating those up-and-coming fighters. Now, you look at that fight, Boser, I think, wins. At the time, you really look at that fight. Now, maybe Boser doesn't inflict as much damage as Arlovski does, but he definitely outstrikes him. I don't know. It's a close fight to score. When you really go back and rewatch that fight, watch it again. I think Boser probably should have got the nod. And then he runs into Ilir Latifi where he outstrikes Latifi, but he gets out grappled, so he loses by split decision. Then he beats Ovince St. Preux. All right, well, that's going to happen. Ovince St. Preux is kind of over the hill. I don't know. OSP was booked against somebody. Ion Cutelaba. I'm glad that fight didn't happen. It's supposed to be on this card, obviously, because, OSP is from Tennessee. Didn't happen. Then, of course, Boser was booked against Rodrigo Nascimento. He gets out wrestled, loses a split decision. And then Ion Cutelaba goes out there and just kind of beats him down, takes him down, and then TKOs him. So now you get him and Alexa Camur. I would worry about Boser with the grappling game. However, Alexa Camur is not really that grappler. He is going to come out there and try to strike with you, which favors Tanner Boser a lot because Boser will get a striking fight. And in a striking fight, I think Tanner Boser is able to do enough. At light heavyweight, he's yet to pick up a win in the UFC at light heavyweight, but I think he's going to get one here. I don't think he's going to knock out Alexa Camur because we have seen Camur go the full distance with guys like Knight and Nikolai. So I think Boser is able to go out there and get back on the winning track. I think he's able to get out he's able to snap out of the 4 losses in 5 fights. I think Tanner Boser comes back into the win column, I guess, with a victory over Alexa Camur. This is a winner go home fight. Basically, the loser of this fight is going to get cut from the UFC. I think Boser's able to pick up the victory. I think Tanner Boser is able to stay alive in the Ultimate Fighting Championship to win this fight by unanimous decision. Next up, here we go. Diego Lopes is back, and he will be taking on the governor, Gavin Tucker, here in the featherweight division. What a fight. This is a tremendous fight here on the main card. And Diego Lopes opens the favorite. Wow. I mean, I get it, because Gavin Tucker has lost his last fight, but that was in 2021. What Gavin Tucker are we getting? That is my question to you, because I truly don't know. We haven't seen the guy in a while. He was on winning sort of a winning streak. He was winning in the UFC. He won his first, he won four of his first five. The only loss being to Ricky Glenn, but he comes back, he beats Sung Woo Choi, submits Justin James, beats Billy Quarantillo, and by far his best victory. The win over Quarantillo is he dominates Quarantillo on the ground, kind of what Damon Jackson's hoping he can do to Quarantillo on Saturday night. And then he runs into Dan Ige, and Dan Ige flatlines him. Dan Ige knocks him out in 22 seconds. And here we go. Tucker hasn't fought in 2.5 years. He's 37 now. Time's a ticking. And they run him straight into Diego Lopes. Now, you know Diego Lopes because of his fight against Movsar Evloev. It's a fight that, he tries everything. He throws the kitchen sink at Movsar Evloev. He's getting wrestled. He's going to be on the ground, sure. But Diego Lopes is always throwing up submissions. He's always trying to do something. He's trying to reverse positions. He threw up 4 submissions in that fight against Movsar Evloev. He doesn't get a single one of them, sure, and he loses every single round. But it was a good fight for him on short notice. He comes in. That was supposed to be the Bryce Mitchell spot against Movsar Evloev. Mitchell drops out. It's a Newark, New Jersey UFC 288. Lopes makes a great account of himself. He loses the fight, but it's a close fight. Now you get him against Gavin Tucker. Now, he looked good in that fight, but don't forget, Diego Lopes did drop a fight where he got beat by decision by Joe Anderson Breathe in 2021. Lopes will always remain active on the ground. That's going to happen. Lopes will remain active on the ground. He's always going to be looking to submit you. Gavin Tucker, though, don't forget how good Gavin Tucker is on the ground as well, though. Don't forget that. We have yet to see Diego Lopes get a takedown so far in the UFC, which is a little bit concerning, even though it was one fight. Still, I know it's against Movsar Evloev, who's undefeated. But still, we have not seen him get a takedown in either the Contender Series or in the UFC. Both fights have kind of been the same. It's been his opponent beating him on the ground, and he's been throwing up a lot of submissions, and he remains active off his back, which is great. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But Gavin Tucker is going to threaten you on the ground. Gavin Tucker will take you down. Gavin Tucker will try to hurt you down there. Gavin Tucker is going to be that type of guy who is going to try to work his wrestling game. Now, again, the Ricky Glenn fight he got absolutely beat down on. It was in Canada, UFC 217. You got like a 30-24 scorecard in that fight. That fight was not close. The Ricky Glenn Gavin Tucker fight. But Tucker really came into his own after that. This fight's tough for me, it really is, because I could definitely see a world where Gavin Tucker just takes down Diego Lopes and holds him down. But I could also see Diego Lopes actually executing one of those submissions, because his jiu-jitsu is really good, Lopes. I could see him actually getting that submission. Or I could honestly just see this fight staying on the feet, and I think Diego Lopes got a shot up there as well. It's a close fight. I just don't know what Gavin Tucker we're going to get, right? Because we haven't seen the guy in a while. It has been a minute since Gavin Tucker has fought in the UFC. Again, last time we saw him, he was getting flatlined. He got knocked out. He got put out cold by Danny Ige. So we haven't seen Gavin Tucker in a very long time. Diego Lopes, he's going to offer up a grappling challenge for Tucker. He's going to go out there. He's going to try to submit Gavin Tucker. But Tucker, in his own right, is probably going to go out there with a wrestling-heavy approach and probably try to hold down Diego Lopes. Will he be able to? I don't know. I want to pick Gavin Tucker here, but I kind of just think 37 years old Gavin Tucker taking a couple years off, I think that's tough on the career. I think it's tough, the inactivity, and with that inactivity into account, I'm going to take Diego Lopes to win this fight. He's going to find a submission, and I'm picking a lot of second-round finishes tonight, but give me a second-round submission victory for Diego Lopes. I don't think it's going to be right away, but I think eventually Lopes is finally... Actually, no, give me a third-round submission for Diego Lopes. He throws a lot of submissions in the third round. That's kind of what happens. But I think Lopes will find success. I think it will be 1-1 going into the third. Tucker will find that takedown. I think he will tire, and Lopes will get that submission in the third round. It will be a great fight, a great back and forth fight that's going to get the fans on their feet. But I think Diego Lopes is able to win it. I think he's able to win it by third round submission. Again, I think Tucker's going to come in with that wrestling heavy approach, and eventually I think Lopes will catch him in something. I think Lopes wins, but my God, that is a tough fight to pick. Like, I am not confident in the slightest about Diego Lopes winning that fight. I could definitely see a world where Tucker wins. Like, don't put money on that fight, because that fight can go either way. Because you just don't know what you're going to see, by the way, out of Gavin Tucker, who is 2 years out of the sport, now coming back. So, I don't know. On to our next one. In the light heavyweight division, we have got Dustin Jacoby taking on the African Savage and Kennedy Nzechukwu. What a fight, man. This is a good one, because Dustin Jacoby is coming off back-to-back losses. But Dana White speaks ever so highly about Dustin Jacoby. I think Dana White might have thought that Jacoby maybe should have got the nod against Asmat Murzakanov. Actually, no, I don't think he should have. I don't think Dana actually thought that. But Dana was impressed that Dustin Jacoby just went for it in that third round, which is great. But he did drop the first two. And now he gets a tough fight, a hard fight against Kennedy Nzechukwu. Nzechukwu is a dog in there. I know he lost back-to-back fights in 2021 into 2022. Lose to Da Jung and Nikolai Negamediano. That sucks, but 3 straight wins after that, all by finish. Like, Nzechukwu, other than his first win in the UFC, has gotten to finish every single fight in the UFC. Carl Solberg, he knocks him out. The big comeback victory, knocks him out in the second round. He knocks out Danilo Marquez in the third round. He TKOs Carl Roberson in the third round. He finishes Ion Cutelaba in a main event by second round finish, and then he submits Devin Clark in the second round at UFC 288. Nzechukwu is a finisher. Again, the nickname presents itself. He is truly the African Savage in there. The guy is tremendous. I know he did lose back-to-back fights, and that's not good. The Da Jung fight makes it tough, on Nzechukwu, because, Jacoby's going to kind of try to fight the same way. Jacoby's going to try to get in your face. Jacoby's going to try to box with you. However, Jacoby's been on the wrong end of 2 scorecards in back-to-back fights. I thought he beat Khalil Roundtree. I don't like the scorecard in the Roundtree fight. However, I thought he lost to Murzakanov in his last fight, and now Nzechukwu a guy who's going to get in your face, and Nzechukwu will strike with you as well. If Jacoby's getting outstruck by Asmat Murzakanov, I think Nzechukwu can outstrike him as well. Nzechukwu does have, a grappling game. He does have submissions. Really don't see it playing too much into account here. I've been saying account a lot today, but I don't think it's going to play too much of a factor in this fight. I really don't think it is. I think Jacoby and Nzechukwu are just going to strike. That's really where I see this fight happening. I think you just see a striking fight between both these guys. Someone will likely get knocked out. I think it's more likely to be Jacoby just because of the way they fight. And Nzechukwu more of a finisher. Jacoby, can knock you out, but can beat you definitely by decision as well. But Nzechukwu, if he's going to win this fight, he is going to look for the kill, and he's going to look for the finish. It's a good fight. It is, because Nzechukwu, again, this is a guy who has come out and gotten a lot of finishes in the UFC. He's been active. He's coming back, less than 3 months after winning his last fight against Devin Clark. He beat Cutelaba. He beat Roberson. Now, the Negamediano fight's close. He drops it. But it's a really close fight. I think, Nzechukwu does a lot in that third round. Early in the fight is a little bit shaky for him. And Nzechukwu, I'll talk about this every time he fights. Nzechukwu is a very slow starter. You will not see Nzechukwu get a first round knockout. That's just not how he fights. He will not finish the fight in the first round. Because Nzechukwu, again, it takes him a while to get going. Like, that's why I think Jacoby, another guy who in his last fight took him a little bit to get going as well against Murzakanov. I think I think Jacoby will win this first, and I think because I'm going to pick Kennedy Nzechukwu to win this fight, I think Nzechukwu really takes over in that second round, and I think Kennedy Nzechukwu is able to win this fight by second round knockout. Again, it'll take him a little bit, but after dropping the first, it kind of, Nzechukwu kind of needs a little bit to wake up in the fight. That's why, again, you will not see him get a first round knockout finish. I think it'll take him a little bit to wake up, and I think in that second round, Nzechukwu will start really firing on all cylinders, and I think he will finish Dustin Jacoby. So give me the -140 favorite, or actually -150 favorite, in Kennedy Nzechukwu to finish Dustin Jacoby in the second round. I think Nzechukwu picks up the biggest win to this date, and I think he just keeps climbing the rankings in the light heavyweight division. On to our co-main event. In the strawweight division, we have got Jessica Andrade, the former strawweight champion, taking on the up-and-coming, challenger, contender in Tatiana Suarez. If Suarez is healthy, she is a problem for everyone in this weight class. It's that simple. Now, she's only 9-0. She's only had 9 professional fights. But Tatiana Suarez is still good. After 4 years off, from the Nina Ansaroff fight to the Montana De La Rosa fight, 4 years. And she still came back and submitted De La Rosa in the second round. I know Montana De La Rosa is not the hardest fighter, I guess, to beat, because that's just Montana De La Rosa is all right. But Tatiana Suarez went right through her. She just went right through her. It wasn't really competitive. The first round, all wrestling by Suarez. Second round, she took her down. She submitted her. Got him with a guillotine choke. Dropped her to her guard. Won the fight. Right? Now she gets Jessica Andrade. Tatiana Suarez is going to be so much bigger than Jessica Andrade in this fight. This fight, I'm not saying it's going to look exactly like Carla Esparza versus Tatiana Suarez, but it's going to be similar, I think. Now, Andrade, better striker, more power. However, I don't think she's going to be able to I don't think she's going to knock out Tatiana Suarez. In terms of grappling, like the jiu-jitsu game at Andrade is better than Carla Esparza, but the wrestling-wise, hell no. Hell no. If you haven't watched Tatiana Suarez versus Carla Esparza, watch that fight, because that shows you how good Tatiana Suarez is. That fight was in 2018. Carla Esparza became the world champion in 2022. She's now pregnant. She's not fighting right now. But Suarez was able to absolutely obliterate Carla Esparza. The fight before that, she submitted Alexa Grasso in the first round. Alexa Grasso is a world champion now. That's how good Suarez is. And if they win, I think Suarez will probably put herself next in line for a world championship fight. Maybe Yan Xiaonan should be next too. So maybe they do Suarez versus Yan Xiaonan, or they feel like Suarez needs one more fight before the championship, which is fine, because I think maybe Yan Xiaonan deserves a fight against Zhang Weili or Amanda Lemos. If Lemos is able to win, I feel like Lemos is the least talked about title challenger ever, just because it should be Yan Xiaonan. But maybe they do Yan versus Zhang in China. You let Suarez fight someone else. I don't know who, because Rose Namajunas has gone up. By the way, I'm picking Tatiana Suarez win the fight. But yeah, I don't know who else there is at strawweight, really. Marina Rodriguez, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Mackenzie Durden. Mackenzie Durden would be really interesting, actually. Yeah, that'd actually be really interesting. Yeah, that's a good fight. They should do that. Rodriguez lost the last fight. Yeah, she lost to Genji Hoba. Maybe Genji Hoba, too. That would be interesting for Suarez. But I actually think Suarez beats down a lot of these fighters at 115 pounds. I know her last fight was at 125. She said she wanted to go back down because she's going to be so big. She's going to have that big, she have the strength advantage, and she's just going to be coming into that fight on fight day way bigger than her opponent. You know, again, Carla Esparza is smaller at 115 pounds, but she's the same height as Jessica Andrade. Andrade is the same height. Andrade is small for the weight class. Like, again, you saw how much she got beat down by Valentina Shevchenko when they fought for the championship at 125. That's going to be how this fight's going to be. Like, Suarez is going to be able to dominate her on the ground. Like, she's going to just outpower her here. I think Suarez is able to win. I think she's able to win by second round submission. I just think she goes in there. I think she just bullies Andrade. Because what does Andrade do? Knock her out? Sure, well, she just got knocked down in her last fight by Yan Xiaonan. She just fought less than 3 months ago. She's back already. You know Andrade will always stay active, but she hasn't won a fight since the Lauren Murphy fight. This is actually her 4th fight in 2023. She'll likely get 5, I think, especially if she just gets submitted. She'll probably get another fight in 2023. But, like, I can tell you everything she's done. The standing triangle submission whenever Amanda Lemos is great. It just doesn't play into this fight, because that's how good Tatiana Suarez is. And that's how imposing Tatiana Suarez is. Suarez is that good. She's that good of a wrestler. This isn't going to be close. It's going to be one-way traffic. I'm going to give Andrade a round. I think she's able to get out the first round. I think Tatiana Suarez will eventually get the submission in the second. I think it will be eerie similar to the Valentina Shevchenko fight, where as soon as Shevchenko got that fight down on the ground, it was not close. It was not. And also, you look how Erin Blanchfield kind of just manhandled Andrade on the ground too. Like, Andrade, is she out of her prime? I don't know. We maybe should have thought that when Andrade couldn't finish Lauren Murphy. Yeah, I know we credited that a lot to Lauren Murphy's chin, but man, maybe Andrade is starting to slow down. She is only 31, but this is fight number 25 in the UFC for Jessica Andrade. And this is going to be fight number 36 professionally for Andrade. She's been around for a while. She's lost 11 times. She's been knocked out 5 times. That's a lot of damage. I know she's only 31 years old, but maybe it's starting to become the beginning of the end for Jessica Andrade. I don't know. Again, they're giving her tough fighters. After this fight, Andrade really needs to step into a fight with a fighter who's like borderline top 15. She needs to fight, not Karolina Kowalkiewicz again. She needs to fight Jessica Penne. She should fight Jessica Penne after this fight. Or she should give like Piera Rodriguez a chance. Or I wouldn't want Denise Gomez. Cory McKenna. That's not really a fight she's not gonna lose to Cory McKenna. McKenna's really young. She shouldn't, they shouldn't book that fight. However, like Andrade needs to kind of step back from fighting the top level fighters, win a couple fights, and then come back up. That's kind of how I see Andrade right now. However, in this fight, it's not going to be close. Tatiana Suarez, second round submission victory. It is one-way traffic. Suarez picks up the win in the co-main event. I think she's one fight away after this for the championship. Okay, our main event, 140 pounds. Cory Sandhagen takes on Rob Font. Originally supposed to be Cory Sandhagen versus the undefeated Umar Nurmagomedov. That was going to be a close fight. Now Sandhagen gets Rob Font. Is it as entertaining? No, it's not. It's really not. I know Font can put on great fights, but Rob Font has had 3 main events. He has won 1 of them. He's lost the next 2. And in the 2 main events that he lost, his striking didn't look bad. It's just he kept getting knocked down. The Jose Aldo fight, he probably wins that fight if he doesn't get knocked down so many times. I know he gets out wrestled in the 4th, right? He just gets dominated on the ground, but towards the end of that fight. But Rob Font isn't horrible, man. Font isn't a bad striker. He is becoming more active, and that's something I wanted out of Rob Font, especially after he beat Marlon Moraes. I was like, okay, this guy needs to be a lot more active, because before the pandemic, Font wouldn't really fight all that often. He's been fighting a lot more now. He gets Cory Sandhagen. It's an uphill climb for Font. Let's just keep it real. It's gonna be a real uphill climb for him, because you look at the way Cory Sandhagen kind of neutralized Marlon Vera. Fight should not have been a split decision. I don't know what that judge was watching. Like you saw the way that Font got beat up by Marlon Vera. Font outstrikes him. It's just the power advantage was so, it was so obvious towards the side of Chito Vera. Vera was able to knock down Rob Font whenever he wanted to. Everything Vera threw was hurting Rob Font. And Font, again, the volume was there, but the damage wasn't. Font was hitting Vera, but Vera, when he hit Font, you knew he was hitting Font. When Font hit Vera, Vera was just kind of walking right through it. Same with the Jose Aldo fight, honestly, too, right? Font's last fight's good, though. It's a win over Adrian Yanez. He finishes Yanez in the 1st round. Tremendous victory for Font in that fight. He knocks out Yanez in the 1st. He takes Yanez's O. It's a really good win. Like, that is the best win, I would say, of Font's career. He takes Yanez's O in the UFC. That's what I'm talking about. But Cory Sandhagen's just such a good striker, man. You look at his last 2 fights, the way he beats Song Yadong, the way he beats Chito Vera, I just think it's such a tough fight for Rob Font, especially it's a opponent switch on such short notice. I know it's a different fight for Sandhagen too, but I feel like Sandhagen's able to adapt more to this fight against Rob Font than Font's going to be able to adapt to Cory Sandhagen. Because Sandhagen is just that good. Like, it feels like Sandhagen's taking a step down going from Vera to Font. And he kind of is, because Vera has beat Font before. And we've seen Rob Font in these 5-round type of fights. And he is able to go the distance, but he gets beat down towards the end of that 5th round, right? So, like, I think Font will be able to stand there for 25 minutes. We've seen him go 25 minutes 3 times, and the Cody Garbrandt win's a good win, right? But the Aldo fight and the Vera fight has been a result of him getting beat up for 25 minutes, right? I think Sandhagen will kind of do the same, and I think Cory Sandhagen will be able to win. I don't think that pick has been in question. A lot of people are taking Cory Sandhagen. Cory Sandhagen, at least on Tapology, is a 97 to 3% favorite over Rob Font. The odds, minus 265 for Sandhagen, plus 225 for Rob Font. It's not all that playable, honestly, because it's just not the odds you want there. But I mean, it's just, this looks like one-way traffic. It really does. Sandhagen, I think, is just going to go out there and outstrike Rob Font. He's just an all-around quicker fighter and a better striker. Font's got good boxing, don't get me wrong. But Cory Sandhagen's all-around really good, too. I just think all-around Cory Sandhagen's the better fighter. You saw what he was able to do to Marlon Vera. You saw what he was able to do to Song Yadong. Gets the TKO, gets the Dr. Stoppage at the end of the 4th round. He was able to stay competitive with a not washed-up Piotr Jan, because I don't know what happened to Piotr Jan, honestly. Sandhagen was very competitive with TJ Dillashaw. He knocks out Frankie Yeager. He finishes Marlon Moraes. The guy is really good. Cory Sandhagen is a really solid fighter. Now, where does he go from here? That's the question. Because what is there left in the weight class for him? I feel like it's a Merab fight, but I think we're thinking that Henry Cejudo is going to get the Merab fight, probably. So where does Sandhagen go from here? Because Aljo, actually, yeah, I think, okay, the way I see it, honestly, Aljo Sean O'Malley's next month. Aljo is probably going to vacate the championship after he fights O'Malley. However, he's probably going to take his championship into the fight against Volkanovski. That's why I think Topuria might get screwed of a championship shot, because you got to give it to Aljo over Topuria. However, I think Aljo's going to take some time off, because he is fighting really soon after his last fight. He's going to fight, 3 or 4 months right after he beat Henry Cejudo. He's going to fight again. I think he's going to go right through Sean O'Malley. That's my prediction for that fight. First round submission. It's not going to be close. But I think Aljo's going to take some time before he fights Volk. So I think he's going to hold that championship because they want him to be the champ going into a champ-champ fight against Volkanovski. So I think it will allow Volkanovski to fight Topuria. Then Aljo can fight Volkanovski. And then, again, I think that sets up really perfectly for both these guys. Because Volk, I think, probably needs to fight Topuria and then Aljo before he can go up again. Because those are the fights that are there for him. You know, Volk wants to be active. Okay, Topuria, December. That's the fight. Aljo, give it to him like in March or April. Right? That should be the Aljo Volk champ fight. Now, if Sean O'Malley wins, it throws everything off. But if Sean wins, I think it's simple. Merab gets O'Malley, and Aljo probably just goes up regardless. However, then Aljo doesn't get a title fight. So maybe then Aljo probably works for a rematch because you need the championship probably for him to go up at 145. But actually, there's no challengers at 145. However, he doesn't want to put himself in a situation like Alex Pineda did, where Pineda lost the 185-pound championship, then went up to 205, and then he has to fight Jan Blachowicz. So does Aljo really want to risk it by fighting a Yair Rodriguez or a Max Holloway? Not really. So probably the easiest way back to the title fight at 145 is by fighting at 35 again and fighting Sean O'Malley. If he loses the championship, I don't think that's going to happen. So I think this is complicated, but I think Aljo goes up to 45 to fight Volkanovski after he beats Merab. Or not Merab, he's not going to fight Merab. Sean O'Malley. So he waits for Volkanovski to fight Topuria because the schedules won't align. So Volk can fight Topuria first, and then Volk can go fight Sean or Aljo. Or if Topuria somehow wins, Topuria fights Aljamain Sterling. But then at 35, you've got a vacant championship after Aljo beats Volk. So it's going to be a while till that title is vacant, right? Because they're going to hold it for Aljo. So they might do an interim fight. Maybe they do an interim fight. Because they think Aljo, if he loses to Volk, maybe comes down. Even though Aljo has said openly he doesn't want to come back down to 35. But maybe they do an interim fight. Because you don't want to take the belt off of Aljo for promotional reasons. But you still want to have an active champion at 35. So then maybe, this is where I'm thinking here. Okay. Cory Sandhagen, with a win, probably inserts himself into the vacant championship, in the interim or vacant championship fight. Because I think it will be Sandhagen versus the winner of Cejudo Merab Dvalishvili. I think that's how that fight goes. Because Henry's not fighting Chito Vera anymore. Vera likely needs another win after his next fight against Pedro Munoz for the championship fight. Yeah, I think that's what's probably next. I know there is the winner of Dominic Cruz and Davidson Figueiredo being added to this equation as well, but probably Figueiredo will not be getting a title shot that quickly. So yeah, I think it will be Sandhagen with the win, gets the winner of Cejudo and Dvalishvili, and the winner of that little tournament will become the new champion after Aljo goes up. Unless Sean O'Malley wins the championship, then it screws everything up. But if Sean wins the championship, then you know Merab's getting an immediate championship fight, or Aljo's getting the next shot. So if that might screw everything up. So if Merab does get the next championship fight, then maybe you see Henry versus Cory. Like, Sandhagen's in a really good position in this weight class. He's going to win this fight by decision. Again, the win just puts him in an even better spot because now he doesn't have to fight Umar Nurmagomedov and doesn't have to risk his ranking. And the UFC should be awarding Cory Sandhagen, like how they say they are awarding Sean Strickland for fighting Abus Magomedov when nobody wanted to fight Abus Magomedov. They are rewarding they are rewarding Cory Sandhagen by fighting Umar Nurmagomedov or taking the fight against Nurmagomedov that nobody wanted to take. And they should reward him with a win over Rob Font for a vacant or an interim championship fight against the winner, I think, of Henry Cejudo and Merab Dvalishvili, and or a fight against Henry Cejudo if Sean O'Malley wins the championship. That's how I think it goes, but Cory's in a great spot in this weight class. With a win here, he really has a good chance of earning a world championship fight in his next fight, his second world championship fight after his interim fight against Piotr Yan back in Abu Dhabi in 2021. Yeah, it was in 2021. So yeah, that does it, folks, for our Fight Night Nashville predictions here on the channel. We've got Cory Sandhagen in the main event. I think he gets it done against Rob Font, and we'll be back next week for an Apex card, which sucks. It really sucks. But hey, it's the only Apex card out the next, like, 5. So that's great. But it's Luque dos Anjos, which definitely should be it with the crowd. However, I'm kind of scared for Vicente Luque because he had brain bleeding after his loss to Jeff Neal. So why is he fighting? I don't know. Yeah, that's next week. We'll talk about that fight when we get there. But folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you like if you did enjoy the video. We'll be back tomorrow for a PFL playoff action. You're not going to want to miss that one. Folks, thank you all for watching. And Mamba forever.